Here are my picks for UFC Vegas 115, MOICANO versus Duncan. And man, this is the worst card of the year, but there are a lot of very 50-50 and interesting fights on here, so let me give you my picks. First fight of the night, I got Dakota Hope versus Kai Kamaka III. Kai Kamaka has 4 losses outside of the UFC, 3 losses in the UFC. Dakota Hope is 11-1. He's younger, he's a slight underdog, which means there's value on him, but this fight is still very 50-50, so I'm just siding with the underdog for the plus money. Then I got Dayon Barbosa versus Melissa Gatto. Gatto's been out for a couple years. Barbosa's 8-4, but has been a bit more active, so I got Barbosa. Then I got Asmat Bekoyev versus Tresean Gore. Tresean Gore is 5-4 in his career. Asmat Bekoyev just lost to Yusri Belgarui, who proved himself to be a very, very good prospect after his last win last weekend. Bekoyev looked way better on the scales this time than he did last time. Looks like he actually wants to be here, and I think he's going to get this win by finish. Then next up, guys, I got Elise Pereira versus Haley Cohen. Haley Cohen is 7-4, 0-2 in the UFC. Pereira had a very, very bad UFC debut. She's very young, 14 years younger than Cohen, I believe. So she's still developing herself. If she made the right adjustments, she could beat Cohen because she is kind of a similar skill level fighter as Montse Rendon, who Pereira lost to. And that was a very close fight. So if she just made some adjustments, she should win this one. Then I got Lando Vannata against Darius Flowers. Darius Flowers went 0-3 in the UFC. Now they're bringing him back for some reason. Lando Vannata hasn't fought in a couple years. This is such a random fight, but I got the guy who actually has a couple wins in the UFC. Darius Flowers also had a weight miss, so keep that in mind. Then I got Alessandro Costa versus Stuart Nickel. He's a big favorite, I think rightfully so. I think he's going to bring it to Nickel. Both these guys are fun fighters, but I think Costa's just a little more skilled, a little more well-rounded, and has a little more experience. Then I got Guilherme Pat, who is the slight underdog against Thomas Peterson. I'm not very impressed with Thomas Peterson. Guilherme Pat is 6-0, promising prospect. Unfortunately, he got controlled for more than half the fight on the cage. In his last fight, he did end up winning that fight, but that's pretty concerning because heavyweights like to hold each other in the cage a lot. So if he could escape that cage, then he could probably win this one pretty handily, maybe by knockout. Then I got Jose Delano versus Robert Ruchala making his UFC debut, guys. I'm very high on Jose Delano. I think he's a really, really good fighter. Loved his Contender Series fight. Have not seen Ruchala's game too much, but he's 0-1 in the UFC, so I don't think this is a big step up in competition for Delano, so I got Delano. Next up, I got Tommy McMillan against Mario Zacchini. Mario hasn't fought in a couple years, and Tommy McMillan is coming off a very, very fun fight against David Ngoyen, Arman Tsarukyan's cousin, who now landed a fight on the MVP card for some reason on the Contender Series, which he won by decision. It was a really fun fight. He did get hit a lot. Manolo Zacchini, I don't know why I read Mario. I'm just thinking about the Mario movie. I'm going to see that in a couple days. Zacchini is not a fantastic fighter by any means, 11-4, so I don't think Tommy McMillan will have too much trouble with him. I see guys saying he's very overhyped, and I agree, obviously, just because he's Sean O'Malley's teammate. People are talking about him a lot, but he's a fun fighter. I think the UFC is going to give him a couple easy fights, just like they did to Sean O'Malley, so I got McMillan. Then I got Ethan Ewing versus Rafael Estevan. This is a pretty tough second fight in the UFC for Ethan Ewing. I think Estevan is a slight step up from Malcolm Wellmaker. He did miss weight by a little bit. Ethan Ewing looks super ready. He beat Malcolm Wellmaker on very, very short notice. Now with a full camp and a lot of hunger, I think he's going to beat Estevan, guys. I see a lot of people picking Estevan, but I just disagree, man. I think Ethan Ewing's striking and grappling and wrestling is all there. Estevan might not be too in it, man, because he missed weight in flyweight twice, then moved up to bantamweight, and now missed weight in bantamweight. Brian Battle situation. If he loses this, he's going to get cut, so I think he's going to try to get a win here. He might get cut, win or lose anyways, but I think Ethan Ewing is that good. Next up, I got Abdul Rahman Yakhyayev against Brenson Ribeiro. This guy looks like Mr. Beast. He's a ginormous favorite, minus 1900, probably the biggest favorite of the year, I think, and rightfully so. I think he's going to run through Brenson Ribeiro. He's a very promising prospect at 8-0. Brenson Ribeiro is 17-9. I think he's going to run through him. Then next up, I got Virna Jandiroba against Tabitha Ricci. Tabitha is 3-2 in her last 5 fights. Both those losses are against people that Jandiroba has beaten, and Jandiroba's only loss in her last 5 fights is to the champion Mackenzie Dern. So on paper, this is pretty much a no-brainer for Jandiroba. And then in the main event, guys, I got Chris Duncan against Renato Moicano. I was flip-flopping a little bit, but I think Chris Duncan's going to pull this one off via late finish or decision. I think Moicano's cardio is pretty terrible, so Duncan will not have a problem going 5 rounds with him. Moicano's nearing the end of his career, and Chris Duncan is in the beginning to middle, so I think he'll have way more hunger in this fight. Moicano is probably better overall technically, but just the hunger, the grit of Chris Duncan, I think he's going to get this one done. Put the hands on him, pressure him. He actually has very, very good grappling as well as a striking. Solid chin. I think he'll beat Moicano here, guys. But let me know, who do you guys got? Are these picks amazing? Are they terrible? That's it. See ya.